Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of the Rule 34 Podcast, Season 3. I'm Jack, joined by
Mr. Solis.
And we are back to continue our discussion from 2 days ago about Wrestlemania. We finished up talking about all the events, and especially the ones we went to. We talked about Night 1, and now we're here, new day, to talk about Wrestlemania Night 2.
It's the grandest daddy, the granddaddy of them all.
Just don't let Vince know that, because he'll complain about feeling old.
Hey, we're going to talk about the aftermath of Night 2 as well, and Triple H was on Raw, and he called it the grandest stage of them all. He said it. He said the thing.
All right, but yeah, we got a lot to talk about with this event, especially when you're taking into consideration all the stuff that happened post the show and all that we know now that we're recording this on Thursday.
Let's go.
All right. So we start off Night 2 with Brock Lesnar versus Omos.
Brock doesn't work by the hour. He's not the last match. He's the first.
Yeah. So he opens up Night 2 with Omos in a very short match, just very quick. They let Omos sort of, show his physicality and strength. Like there was a point where he tossed Lesnar, and it was pretty crazy to see him just toss Lesnar like that. And then also the size disadvantage was also just cool to see when like Brock finally went up to like stand up to him. The size difference was pretty cool. But
I don't know where I saw it, but somebody interviewed him about the match, and Brock Lesnar says like part of his wanting to fight Omos was like he'd always played the Goliath in the David versus Goliath analogies, and this is one of the first times he gets to be the David.
Yeah, and it's your typical Brock match. There's a sort of brawl segment, and then it follows all the big power moves. You get the German suplexes, and you get the F5. I want to say MVP was involved in this match, but I don't remember.
I don't think so. Nothing comes to mind. It was a very I think he wins very cleanly.
Yeah, I think one thing I remember is like when they showed the pin happening, they like panned it out to show like the crowd reacting. And I want to say I remember seeing this, but I'll have to go back and check for sure. But I think the reason I remember MVP is because like they showed him like kneeling at the announce table in disappointment that like Omos was losing.
Dang, I mean, all things considered, is this Omos's best match so far?
I think people would say either this one or the Braun Strowman one that happened back in Saudi.
Oh, I don't remember that one at all.
Yeah, I can't remember much of what happened at either. I just remember Braun Strowman hopping on Twitter to like hype up the match and everyone clowning him for it.
That guy, he's one of those guys that should just stay away from Twitter.
Yeah, oh man. But we move on to the second match of the night. Similar to Night 1, we get our Fatal 4-Way Tag match. And this time it's the women on the card. We have Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez versus Natalya and Shotzi versus Ronda and Shayna versus Chelsea Green and Sonya Deville.
Before we start, Jack, and you have 4 teams, which team were you rooting for, if any?
I can't say I was specifically rooting for one team over the other. I mean, when it came to the talent in the match, I was likely probably rooting for Liv and Raquel just because of Liv.
Oh, that's nice. I'm watching this particular night with my dad, so he's 0-1 because he picked Omos to win the first match. He's like, he's the young up-and-comer. He's going to beat this old man, Brock. He can do it, and that's going to make him a star. Dad's booking the show. So he's 0-1. Here, he calls for the Samurai to win. There's something about Shotzi and Natalya's helmets that make them look, and I think they're shoulder pads that make them look like samurai. Mm. And meanwhile, I'm rooting for Chelsea Green and Sonya Deville.
Yeah, I honestly don't remember much from this match.
There's a funny spot, and I'm going to call it funny because it was always going to happen, but there's like this want to give it context. So Chelsea Green is standing on the top rope, and it appears as though her being up there is to give the fans a better photo to take of her. So she's like, "Get your cameras out," and she's posing. And then Raquel Rodriguez starts to approach her like she's going to come after her, and the only way to get away from her was to jump, and so she does this dive onto all the women outside. So there's something about, like, she didn't dive for the sake of diving. Like, I think she's a reluctant wrestler. She only wrestles, like, she doesn't want to actually be here. So, like, she didn't dive to dive. She dove to run.
Oh, wow. I will say, the one thing I heard about this match that, like, some people, like, criticized was that apparently Ronda Rousey was, like, somewhat injured going into the match, and so she wasn't in it except for, like, the pinfall.
Or you mean the submission?
Yeah, the submission.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it definitely felt like they were protecting her, but that just, you know, I think she's definitely on this heel track, right?
Yeah.
And I like her with Shayna. Like, I like Shayna, so her with Ronda gets Shayna on TV and on these shows more often. And, like, in Survivor Series, when she was fighting Liv, I just like the visual of Shayna just behind her, just, like, hyping her up and, like, you know, being her, like, her hype person. It's just like, yeah, this is the maddest blink on the this is that and this and that. I wish she busted a Paul Heyman and took the mic and was like, let me do this right. So anyway, now them side by side. I think they were dressed like Ken and, what's his name from Street Fighter?
Ken and Ryu?
Yeah, because they were in white and red.
Yeah. I didn't notice that, huh? That's funny.
Yeah, matching gis, and I think my dad caught Shayna had lost a boot. And he goes, why is she barefoot? I go, is she wrestle barefoot? Because sometimes they do. But not on a YouTube video. I saw somebody caught it too. She lost the boot.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Rousey beat the Samurai. Got Shotzi in an armbar.
Yeah, they get the win, and kind of just have to wait and see what happens in terms of if we see any sort of outcome from this match like we saw with the Street Profits on Raw.
It would be Ronda and Shayna versus Becky and Lita. Oh no, that'd be incredible.
Speaking of incredible matches, our third match on the card.
Our third match in our fourth episode this week, Jack, because there's so much to talk about.
Yeah. Third match, probably other than, of course, the two main events, probably the match I saw people most excited for just because of the name value alone of the three men involved. It's the Intercontinental Championship match. Intercontinental Championship being defended in a triple threat match with champion Gunther defending against Drew McIntyre and Sheamus.
And, you know, as the guys come out to the ring, Gunther gets the super big introduction. He's got, what's his name nowadays? Ludwig Kaiser on the mic like he was at Clash of Champions with Giovanni Vici at his side. He gives him the whole thing, the ring general. And the guy looks, you know, as big as that set was, he looked like a beast. His music is bad, but it was a beast.
Yeah.
It's Gunther, you know what I mean? That music, it's silly. But goodness gracious, did he look good out there.
Yeah, definitely. And I was also very excited for this match because I know these three men can not only go, but they've demonstrated against one another that they can go. So you already knew throwing in the three of them was gonna likely work out.
Dad's going for Sheamus, by the way. Or is he going for Gunther?
I can't say I was specifically rooting for any of the three men.
No.
I think, like, in the back of my mind, I was probably rooting for Gunther just because he's slowly creeping up on the Honky Tonk Man's IC Championship reign. I don't know if he'll get there, but...
Can you imagine that sentence said out loud to people who don't know what's going on? Gunther is close to surpassing the Intercontinental Championship reign of the Honky Tonk Man.
Oh, man. But what were your thoughts on this match, sir?
Oh, it was my match of the night, the match of the weekend? Question mark. Oh, it's up there. Goodness, how high is it up there? And it was so good. All of the discoloring, right? Not just on Sheamus's pale chest, but on Gunther's as well. Drew's got all that hair, but for the color you couldn't see, the sounds, Jack. Like those ASMR chops. These guys were laid it in thick, and I think they put some mics under the ring.
Yeah, no lie. They were really going at it. Man, I like how they like kind of wanted to like, you know, or like I don't know, I don't watch the shows, so like I don't know how we got to this point, but like I like the difference in the fact of like at the Royal Rumble, Drew and Sheamus were like effectively teaming together and all constantly going after Gunther together and saving one another from any of like his attacks. And then like in this one, they weren't afraid to go at each other because they were just like, you know, there's a championship on the line, you know, that's our number one goal, not protecting one another.
I also don't watch the weekly shows, but I think on the pre-show, I think they showed a video package where in a single promo, I heard Drew telling Sheamus, "You've already proven you can't beat him. I want a shot at him." You know, I think they were both bullying Adam Pearce for this match, right? And Drew calls him out and goes, "You had your shot." So goodness.
Yeah. And then Titus O'Neil was on commentary, and I didn't get to hear because we had to mute the TV for a bit, but we had the captions on, and all we see in the captioning is that Titus O'Neil was like saying like, "If a man ever hit me like that, arrest him," or something like that.
Call the police.
Yeah, call the police. I was like, oh man, this man.
And he was he had that one line that he went to too often, but that was just Titus on commentary for some reason. Like he doesn't, like he didn't. Why, Jack? Why was Titus out there?
I don't know. That was the most random part for both nights. Was Titus was out there commentating certain matches.
Like which match did he commentate the night before?
The 4-way tag match for the men.
Well, yes, because he's the one that reminds us that Angelo Dawkins is a D1 football player.
Yeah.
He at least he's a tag team champion, you know, in his own right. What's he out there for this one?
I don't know.
Well, you know what I loved about him? You know what they did? You know what I think they did on purpose? He like calls out these guys for being like getting kind of sweaty, and then they pan to him, and he is glistening. And I'm like, was that a jab at Titus for saying that? Because like he is, you know what I mean, super shy, bald, and he's talking about how sweaty these guys are getting, and I go, we never cut to the commentators, but they cut to him at that moment for that line.
Oh man.
What move stood out to you, Jack?
The one that definitely stood out to me and really kind of sells the whole like tension brewing between McIntyre and Sheamus is the fact that when he got to McIntyre, he did 25 beats on the chest.
And I love like this, like, you know, this style of match, right, Jack? The like heavy strikes, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that Suzuki kind of match, that Japan kind of match. And the crowd just being super into it. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
we've just seen these men slap each other in the chest for the last 4 or 5 minutes, and I want 4 or 5 more.
Yeah, and then I really love that when Sheamus hit that like one bro kick, and like that really could have convinced us to finish because of like the way they like lined it up, and then you just see Drew pull him off at the last second, and like Sheamus not only like looks like surprised, but he looks pissed that he did it.
Yeah. You know what I love too? Like they didn't have to do this, but they did, right? They left the Brawling Brutes in the back, and they left Imperium in the back.
Yeah.
This is a one-on-one affair.
Yeah. One thing that I want to rewatch the match for, just so that like I can see if it's a valid criticism of mine, but like at least when watching it, the one thing that kind of like if I want to say I like nitpicked from the match was that like it felt like for like the final however long it was, like 7 almost 10 minutes of the match, it felt like Gunther completely disappeared because there was like a long portion where it was just Drew and Sheamus going back and forth. And I know
Yeah.
that's typically how like triple threats go, but like there was like such a long portion that he was gone that I was like, where is he? You know, like it reminded me of like back in the day. You remember when like in all those Roman matches he would like be down and out for like 10 minutes after like being put through like the announce table or something, or like, you know, like in those certain matches. Like I remember like the Rumble that he won. You remember they put him through the announce table and he was gone for like that long period of time. It felt like that
straight
was
up stretcher, like when he was stretchered out.
Yeah, I was like, where is Gunther and all this? Like I was wondering. Then he comes back in the end to win. And like that was the only thing that like I nitpicked from. I was like, I wish he had come back a little bit sooner, but like it made sense for him at the same time, you know, to come in at the last second and capitalize on these two.
The very heelish thing to do.
Yeah.
The very Charlotte thing to do. My buddies that I took to the Supercard noticed the same thing during the ladder tag match. He goes, we just waiting for our turn, aren't we? Because, you know, from a bird's eye view, you can see what everyone in the ring is doing, but also what everyone outside the ring is doing.
Yeah.
But Gunther comes in fantastic fashion and powerbombs Sheamus onto McIntyre. And then I think powerbombs McIntyre for good measure and pins him.
Yeah.
You remember when he used to do that pin where like he's balancing himself on the guy?
Yeah.
Remember how much more like powerful that move looked because he was so big? Now he's lost all that weight and it doesn't even look the same.
Yeah. I thought the same thing when I saw him like go for the splash.
Oh, and you're like, this isn't nearly as threatening as it was 3 years ago.
Yeah. Hey, but props to him for, you know, losing all that weight like that.
That guy lost so much weight.
Yeah. I'll never forget, I showed Ricardo that like one photo of like Gunther when he was first starting off, and he had like the blonde hair and the green singlet, and he was like, that is not him. I'm like, yeah, that was how he started off.
Unbelievable. Gunther retains.
Yeah, Gunther retains in a real great match. And we move on to another match that can't say had the best build, similar to the women's match on night one, but still had a lot of people, you know, similar to night one that were like, we know the match will be good, but WWE did a real foul job in building up the match.
You know, and like this one's tough, right? It's a good person versus a good person. Asuka's not evil per se, right?
Yeah, I would definitely say
the story would have been better if one of them were, you know, skew on the side of mad or mean or bad, you know?
Yeah, and I guess
let the best gal win, you know?
Yeah, and I think the real difficult part is that you're kind of stuck because, I mean, from her time in NXT, we know Bianca can play heel, but like, how do you get the fans to really boo her? Like the majority to boo her. Like she may have some people that like don't like her now, but like the majority still very much cheers for her and loves her. You know, so like it would be hard for in those few months leading up to Mania to really get the crowd to turn on her. And similarly with Asuka, even when she's been like, or even when she's like leaned into like a heelish side and done some heelish things, that crowd just never boos her, you know. I don't know if there's anything she can do to get that crowd to boo her.
Yeah. She's missed more of one type of wrestler than the other, right? Is she missing just the heels or heels and faces equally?
Yeah. Even when she missed it live at the Rumble, even though it was by accident, she got cheered for it. So it's like it's real difficult. But yeah, we have the Raw Women's Championship on the line, Bianca defending against Asuka. And I don't know, there was a lot like that I wondered about this match, you know, because Asuka came in with a new character at the Rumble, so there's reason to think she could win it. But Belair has still remained, a dominant champion since she won it at the last Mania. And like Ricardo had hinted at on Friday when we were at Supercard of Honor, she has a streak going where she's been undefeated in singles matches at Mania.
In singles matches, it's true.
Yeah, she beat Sasha night 1 at 37, beat Becky last year. Can she go 3-0? Can she go for the three-peat? And it was funny because when Ricardo told me, he's like, I want Bianca to win so she gets a streak, I just look over, and I look over at my dad, and he goes, what? And I go, he just said he wants Bianca to beat Asuka. And he looks at Ricardo, and Ricardo's like, I want her to have a streak. And my dad goes, I knew we shouldn't have invited you.
We stand Asuka.
What did you think, sir?
I was rooting for Asuka. Bianca, has carved herself a nice championship run. She's beaten a lot of high-profile people, and I think she could have taken the L. I think Asuka could have provided some kind of, and I think we're spoiling the ending with our word choice, right, and our cadence. But Asuka could have been, something different. Like, I wasn't ready for that. I wasn't ready for Asuka. Could somebody say that, please?
Yeah.
She only beat 5 other women in a hellacious elimination chamber. Can we get through the EST, right?
Yeah, and, the one thing that, I've noticed people, bring up, which, I don't necessarily, fully agree with, because we've seen in her chases to both title wins, she's obviously faced, adversity, but I think people want to see something similar to when, she lost it to Becky, where, you got this whole chase and you got this whole sort of development of, from having to deal with going from champion to challenger again, and add a whole nother layer to her character,
Yeah, yeah.
She's got to have adversity to overcome, someone down the line in the card who people are saying needs adversity before he wins a title.
Foreshadowing. And Asuka, this isn't her night. We saw some big moves. Those look good. Got my hopes up. Belair ducks the cloud of mist. And I go, okay, we're portraying her as a smart one, right? Because that mist be catching everybody. And frankly, every time it happens, I low-key forget it's something she does. I'm like, I would have got a face full of mist going, dang it, of course that's what she rolled up for pin, right?
Yeah. Oh, wait, I'm trying to remember if it was in this match or the match in night 1. There was a spot, I know it was one of the women's matches because it had a female ref where the ref kind of got kicked and backed into the corner.
Yeah.
But she didn't go down. And so I looked at my dad and I go, why can't we have this ref for Roman's matches?
I think it was this one because that may have been when Asuka takes her shot at the mist.
Yeah.
She just gets rattled.
Yeah. But, it was funny. The moment we saw Belair lift Asuka up for the KOD and actually hit it, me and my dad both went, yeah, that's the end. No one's kicked out of that yet, so that's the end.
Goodness. Well, match is done. Belair wins. Jack, who do you think's going to beat Bianca Belair for that title?
Asuka at Backlash, because that's what this company likes to do. That's what this company likes to do.
I see. I see what you mean. Yeah, I see. That's hopeful, wishful thinking, driven by data. I don't even know who could do it. Maybe Raquel.
Yeah.
Put her upright. She's even stronger than the EST. Ooh.
Yeah. The one thing I'll say, though, because I've seen people mention, the whole thing about, well, Asuka's getting up there in age and all that, but, that should be even more reason to give her WrestleMania moment.
Well, she can. For borrowed time, let's go.
Yeah.
Otherwise, her only WrestleMania moment is losing the Charlotte that match she shouldn't have lost.
Yeah. She's, I think, 0-5 at Mania now.
Dang. So was Big Show for a long time.
Yeah.
Famously.
Yeah, I remember because that was the whole story for his Intercontinental match against Cody back at Mania 28, I think. Yeah, but I don't know what choices they have, but I could see them doing Asuka at Backlash, literally the pay-per-view after.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows? But we move on from that match to another Snoop Dogg and Miz segment as they come out to announce the capacity crowd again for this time night 2. And then The Miz starts complaining about, that Snoop Dogg put him in the match yesterday. And I forget how it leads to another match, like what exactly is said. But Snoop Dogg basically tells The Miz he's in another match. And this time, it is who else but none other than the returning Shane McMahon.
Yeah, I think the story was that, like, Snoop Dogg apologizes by saying, "My bad."
Oh,
and
yeah.
Like, this is like, is that your apology? Is that how you apologize? And like, Snoop is implying that he's not apologizing at all. At least, that's as much as he's going to get. And like, if one needed a further explanation of what my bad means, and he kind of points to the ramp where Shane McMahon makes his epic return.
Yeah. And it's funny because obviously it's all backstage reports and like reports from news sites, so who knows if it's like true or not. But like I saw something that like kind of made it funny, that like to kind of think, because it'll be something we touch on more than likely in these episodes talking about Night 2. But before WrestleMania goes on, there was rumors and reports that they were potentially going to be bought by Endeavor, who owns the UFC as well.
Right.
And so people were thinking, could Vince be coming back? Because as far as we've known, Triple H is the one in charge right now. And back at the Royal Rumble 22, after the whole debacle with that, and especially Shane being involved in that, the rumor is that Vince apparently told people backstage that after all that, when he fired Shane, he said, Shane will never get a pop as long as I'm in charge of WWE. And so it's funny to see him come back here at WrestleMania right before that purchase happens and the rumors of Vince coming back as like the owner. So it's like, it's funny that happens like right before. It's almost as if to say, well, let's get him in there just in case if Vince actually means it.
That's interesting. That's a leap though. You know what I liked about this? And like, we talked about how much I don't think cared for the Pat McAfee impromptu match, right? Mm-hmm. But let's not forget that last year there were impromptu matches then as well. A very high profile one, because the Austin KO match was impromptu, right?
Yeah.
Stemming from their interview on the KO show, and the night after, Vince McMahon challenges Pat McAfee to a match right away, right?
Yeah.
I do like they didn't build a match with Shane McMahon up to WrestleMania. They didn't use any airtime building a match with Shane, right? That's what he would have wanted it maybe a year ago. Like, his picture on the posters and on the graphics and in the commercials and with a package. No. But the surprise, you're like, hey, you know what? This is like icing. This is like, the cherry on the top of the sundae. It's like, you know what it is? It's an onion ring in your fries. You're like, hey, I didn't ask for this. You didn't tell me I was going to get this, but I'm excited. And goodness, if only they were able to do whatever they planned on doing. Because literally 30 seconds into the match, what happens, Jack?
Shane McMahon goes down. And what's funny enough is, like you said, it was literally 30 seconds into the match. I only went down to look at my phone to like see if anyone was having any reactions to Shane coming out, and then I look up and he's down on the ground getting attended to, and I'm like, "What the heck happened?" And that's when I went back.
What was the reaction like to Shane McMahon coming out?
What happened?
What was the reaction to Shane coming out?
I saw a ton of people being very surprised, and just like this is so random in a sense. Like there was nothing they would have thought like hinted to this.
Just as fast as he went down, Jack, because I was on Twitter too, just looking for the reactions and people like being so excited about the moment. Jack, you should have seen how fast they pulled it up. They were like, well, he must be Vince's son. And they had the side by side. It's Shane McMahon and Vince in 2005 at the Rumble.
Oh, gosh. Oh,
they were like father, like son. I was like, golly. What kind of delay are you watching this on that you got that up and posted so fast? They're referencing, of course, when Vince McMahon blew his quad running into the ring to correct the ending of the 2005 Royal Rumble.
Oh man.
Hey, you know who thought even faster on his feet in that moment? Snoop Dogg. And I heard people call that he should be put in the Hall of Fame again for what he did after this impromptu injury, this unprecedented injury.
Yeah, he subs in essentially, and that was the funny thing was like so much was going on and like that I wasn't realizing what was happening that like I didn't realize that they officially made it so that Snoop could sub in after the injury.
They
And
didn't, but whatever. And I was looking too for an earpiece. I thought maybe he was wearing, and somebody might have been feeding him like what to do. I don't think he was wearing one. I think the man is just a consummate professional.
yeah, he was very quick on his feet, and and I think another thing that shows it is that he made it very quick. Instead
Very
of
quick.
like doing a long drawn out segment with the Miz, he just clocks him, does the people's elbow, gets the pinfall, and then they get him all out of there.
I wonder, Jack, if that Shane match would have included the Snoop Dogg people's elbow like anyway. I wonder if like there would have been a moment where he comes in and does that, like helps Shane. So he's just like, go to the end, bruh. Bam. With the greatest people's elbow ever, with his running of the ropes, how he bounced off the ropes with his hands completely to his side. It was great.
Yeah. But we move on from that very quick segment to now our penultimate match, which is one that has been building for like close to a full year almost.
Oh, yes.
We get Edge versus the Demon Finn Balor in Hell in a Cell.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, a Hell in a Cell, I don't know we needed, Jack. Edge beat Finn at Royal Rumble.
Yeah. Very weird.
I thought we were done.
Yeah, but they're finishing it off in the cell finally. And, a lot of people were happy. They brought back the old cell, no more of this red colored cell.
Yeah.
But it seems like they put the color elsewhere.
Oh, my goodness. Goodness gracious. Before we get to the match, we got some special entrances. I don't know what Edge was doing. What'd you think of it, Jack?
It just confuses me every time because I swear he's done this like 3 times where he does like this Brood-esque entrance first and then the normal one. But the funniest one about this one was like, if you saw like on the Titantron for the display board that said Brood, I think it was, or like the Brood, and then someone like posted about it like on social media going, so what's Brood-esque about it? Does it have you coming out from underneath? No. Or do you have like your old attire? No. Is Gangrel at least coming out with you? No. Then what's Brood about it? Nothing. I'm just gonna come out wearing this skull-like mask and with the words Brood on the Titantron and red lighting.
With these goofy-looking wings that someone should have told me were goofy-looking before I came out in front of 80,000 people.
Yeah, but I don't know. Edge always confuses me with this entrance, especially because then like he does it, and then like there's a short pause, and then it goes into his normal one, and it's just like, I don't know. I think I'd much prefer if he'd choose one and stick with like the theme and like go full effort with one or the other,
He also came out to a Slayer song I didn't recognize, and I'm like, well, how could I have? I was so enamored by the weird skull mask thing that I think would have been better if Finn were wearing it.
Yeah. And then Finn comes out, but like, I want to say it like looked a bit awkward just because of like, I'm so used to like, whenever he does his entrance as like the demon, like all the smoke and him coming out of it, like rising out of it. Whereas like when they did this one, it's like you just saw him sort of come into frame and like do the normal entrance, and I was like, that's weird. And then I was trying to look in the audience because he was doing what he used to do, with his hands, and I was trying to see if like people in the audience were doing it because I was like, I wonder if it's been so long since he's done that entrance
that people forgot what to do.
Yeah, like if people remember that that's what they do during his entrance.
Yeah, I think I want to shout him out for like differentiating between him in like demon mode and not demon mode because we saw him the night before helping Dom, right?
Yeah.
And when he's in the Judgment Day, I really like him in the Judgment Day because he's like, he's just annoying. He's just annoying. You know what I mean? Like he reminds me of like one of the kids at school. He's just like somebody needs to talk to him because not everything's okay at home. Like you know what I mean? Like. He's acting out. But when he's a demon, I get the sense that, like, he's none of those things. And I go, that's interesting. What a funny, subtle character change, right? Like, Damien's not with them. Dom's not with them. Like, none of those guys are with them. He's just, he's growling, too. That's funny and weird. But, he's animalistic.
Yeah.
Now we're in the match, Jack. What'd you think?
I thought it was, pretty good, decent, when they were like first starting off, and then when I say this, I mean it in no way of it like actually took away from the match for me, but I got completely taken out when they bring out the weapons and they're colored red and purple, and I'm just like, what are we doing here?
It's where the color from the cage went.
I was like, what are we doing here? What is the point of these being colored? And then to make matters worse, so one of the chairs was red, and the candlesticks they were using was red. To make matters worse, later on they go get more chairs and more candlesticks, and none of them are colored. So I'm like, what was the point of having the red and purple colored stuff to start with?
Somehow, Jack, my favorite and least favorite spot of the match is when he uses the candlesticks to trap the demon in the corner of the cell. Because I'm talking out loud to my dad, like I'm being a critic mid-match, and I'm like, I'm glad he's using the cell. I'm glad there's a reason for the cell to be here. This is a spot that he couldn't do without the cell. But then also, why can't the demon just take the sticks out of the holes? Like, is that hard to do? Is that like I think he had lots of room in his arms to bend them and remove the candlesticks from where they were.
Yeah. There was also a table spot, I think it was, and again, I think the table was like purple or something. And I'm just completely taken out at this point because I'm just like, what is the point of all this? Like,
remember the Fiend's hammer?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
The Fiend's hammer was only dumb because he didn't do anything with it. If he had knocked Seth Rollins out of his boots, we'd have been like, I need a hammer for Christmas, right? Like, but somebody was told, hey, I need you to paint this purple and red, and somebody should have told them, no. No, because that's a dumb idea and you're being dumb.
Yeah, especially because, like, the one thing I'm thinking about is, like, the people that are, like, watching a match, per se, for, like, the first time, or they're checking back into WWE, or, like, you want to show, like, maybe a spot from this match, and now you have the added sort of like admin of having to explain why certain weapons are colored, and like the only explanation you can provide to them is, well, he's from the Judgment Day and their main color is purple, and Edge was from the Brood back in the 90s.
Edge has recently adopted the color red. It's not even something that's a part of his character and his like history. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's just recently kind of grown fond of red.
Yeah, but the two continue to battle back and forth. They introduce a ladder.
Yep.
And with this ladder, we see Edge use it, and I can't remember if like he hits him with it or if he throws it at him. But
he throws it at his face.
Yeah, Balor gets hit with that ladder, and the match comes to a halt because apparently something goes wrong. Balor got hit, started bleeding, so the medical staff have to come in here. And originally,
did you see the photos?
Yeah, so that's the point I want to make. Originally, people were like, WWE, just let the blood flow, just let the blood flow. Why do you have to stop the match to not have blood showing? It's Hell in a Cell, not having blood is dumb. And like, I didn't really feel that way, but I was like, this is taking forever just to take care of this. And then they dropped the photos afterwards, and I was like, okay, I'll shut my mouth now, because I didn't think it was that bad. He had a real deep cut down in his head.
Yeah, like 14 staples worth of cut on his head. And, I'm thinking too, Jack, I go, he's got all that face paint on. I was like, I didn't even see any blood. And then you saw the ring when they pan out. You see the ring apron. I go, oh, I see the blood. Oh, I see the blood now.
Yeah, it was real bad. And
hey, it was raining blood. Hey, Michael Cole or Corey Graves should have said that line.
Oh man, but I think like this was kind of like the turning point for the match, and honestly, the rest of the night, because it felt like things really got cut short and had to be impromptu from here.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I think the two are capable of having a really good match. I think they had a really good match planned, and I think it was cut with made a giant cut that required 14 staples.
Yeah, because from then on, they kind of try and battle it out, but, similar to, like, how you were saying with the Snoop thing of just go to the finish, it seemed like these two men kind of said the same thing where Balor tries to hit Edge with a coup de grace from the steel cage, or from the cage wall, and instead Edge moves out, he goes through the table, and then Edge... he gets hit. Edge hits a spear on Balor. Balor kicks out, and that's when he finishes off with the concerto. Which, honestly, even though he was facing down for it, I still think that's a pretty scary spot to do, knowing the guy's already busted open on his head.
And it looked real good too.
Yeah, but Edge gets the victory. He finally vanquishes Judgment Day from his life.
Here's hoping.
Yeah, and he can finally move on to presumably his retirement tour.
Who retires Edge, Jack? Who do you think? Dominic Mysterio.
Maybe that could be a choice. I see people. It's funny. People always bring back like the nostalgia picks.
Yeah,
I've seen people.
Oh,
say,
Christian should come back to do it.
I've seen people say John Cena, and I'm just like, I don't know.
Let's make sure that rub that could go to a young guy goes nowhere. Yeah. Undertaker should come back and beat him.
Yeah. No.
How much time we got, Jack?
On this episode, 2 minutes.
Hey, let's go. Next episode, we talking the main event and the big question. Why did night 2 fall short of night 1 as far as spectacularness? And then we talk about all the news that came out on Monday.
Yeah, for sure. So thank you all for joining for this episode. We'll catch you on part 2.